She thought she'd fall apart without him. She didn't. Another man tried guilt-tripping her for saying no. She didn't flinch. She just left. Some women don't need revenge. They don't need to clap back. They're protected before the damage even lands. You might think she's just strong, but strength doesn't explain how the heartbreak missed her, how the drama ended right before she was about to get dragged into it, or how every fake friendship somehow exposed itself just in time. That's not intuition. That's not luck. That's Allah. In this video, we're uncovering 8 bold signs that a woman is protected by Allah from evil people, even if she's been broken, abandoned, or underestimated. And sign number 4. It's the one most women ignore until it's too late. So if you've ever been told you're too cold, too distant, or too sensitive, this might be the video that shows you you're not surviving by accident. You're being protected on purpose. Let's begin. Sign number 1. She doesn't chase what Allah removes. In today's world, people are addicted to closure. If someone ghosts them, they spiral. If a relationship ends, they need a final conversation, an explanation, something to hold on to. But some women, they don't chase. They don't send the "please just tell me why" text. They don't sit there replaying everything they said, wondering what went wrong. They feel the pain, but they walk away, quietly, without drama, without begging for answers. And people might call it ego or emotional coldness. But what they don't see is faith, because she's lived enough to know this. When someone leaves without a reason, when a bond breaks without warning, it's not always a tragedy. Sometimes it's a rescue. Allah removes people not just when they're bad, but when they're about to get worse. And if she held on, she would have suffered in ways she couldn't even predict. It's not that she's heartless, it's that her heart has learned how to trust Allah more than empty apologies. And yes, sometimes it feels lonely. Sometimes it hurts in ways she can't explain. But deep down, she knows if someone had to be forced to stay, they were never sent as a blessing. And if Allah made it easy to let them go, it was never a loss. That's the first sign of a woman protected by Allah. She doesn't try to keep what He's already taken away. And if you've ever felt that kind of painful peace, the kind where someone walked out and instead of chasing them, you just let them leave, that wasn't weakness, that was protection. Sign number 2. Her isolation wasn't a curse, it was a filter. You'll see this happen a lot. A woman who used to be surrounded by people, always invited, always active, always included, suddenly finds herself alone. The invites stop. The group chats go silent. She walks into a room and feels like an outsider in circles she once felt safe in, and for a while it messes with her head. She wonders if she did something wrong, if maybe she changed too much, if she became too religious, too quiet, too boring. But slowly the truth starts to sink in. That loneliness she hated, it wasn't punishment, it was protection. Because Allah doesn't just remove people to punish you. Allah removes people to protect your iman. And sometimes the people you laughed with the most were the same people silently dragging you away from who you were meant to become. There's always a point in a woman's life where she either breaks for the crowd or breaks away from the crowd. And when she chooses the second path, even if it's painful, Allah starts building a wall around her, not to trap her, but to keep her safe. Because Allah saw what was being said behind her back. Allah saw how she was being used as the emotional backup, the quiet listener, the one who gives more than she gets. And instead of letting it go on, Allah started pushing her out. The isolation you thought was random, that was your filter. Allah was editing your life, quietly, removing every person who couldn't walk with you to where Allah's taking you next. And if you felt that shift, that slow quiet where people leave, plans change, and you're left wondering, why me? Then maybe it wasn't a punishment at all. Maybe that was the moment Allah said, now it's just me and you. Sign number 3. Her life keeps getting delayed, but not destroyed. At first it just looks like bad luck. Her plans fall through. The job she really wanted closed before she even applied. The nikah proposal that seemed perfect, one phone call, and it's gone. Her visa gets delayed. Her car breaks down. She misses the deadline by a day, and after a while, it starts to feel personal, like she's cursed, like nothing ever goes her way. But here's the part no one talks about. Some delays are divine redirections, because what she doesn't see is what was hidden behind the thing she was chasing. That job, full of people who would have humiliated her. That guy, already entertaining someone else while talking to her. That opportunity would have looked good on Instagram, but emptied her soul behind closed doors. And so while the world calls it bad timing, Allah calls it mercy. This is where most women fall into a trap, thinking that a delay means rejection, that if something didn't happen fast, it's because she wasn't good enough or wasn't doing enough. But in reality, she was being protected in silence. Because Allah doesn't just close doors, He reroutes you before you ruin yourself trying to walk through the wrong one. If you've ever been in a phase where everything kept stalling, even when you were making dua, even when you were trying to do things right, then maybe the delay wasn't a punishment. Maybe it was Allah saying, I know what you don't. Trust me a little longer. Sign 4. They feel guilty even when no one is watching. This one usually creeps in quietly. There's no lecture, no judgment, no one calling them out, just a moment, a glance, a thought. And suddenly the heart tightens. They feel guilt, not because someone caught them, but because their conscience did. That sting they feel after scrolling a little too far, replying a little too flirtatiously, or entertaining something they knew was doubtful. That's not shame, that's protection. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, Ihsan is to worship Allah as if you see Him, and if you cannot see Him, know that He sees you. This feeling of being spiritually watched without anyone physically watching is not ordinary. It's a sign that Allah has not let the heart harden. Because when someone sins and still feels guilt, it means the heart is still alive. And when the heart is alive, it can still be guided. But here's the danger. The more that guilt is ignored, the quieter it becomes. And if someone keeps silencing it long enough, they might just lose the one thing that was keeping them connected to Allah in the first place. So if that inner voice still whispers to turn back even after a private mistake, don't drown it out. That guilt is not your enemy, it's your shield. And the next sign, it's about something most people misunderstand as rejection, but it might just be the clearest protection of all. Sign 5. The door that was ignored but saved us from what we didn't see. There are moments when you sit on the prayer mat and pour your heart out. You ask for something specific, a person, a job, a yes. You plan your life around it. You tell yourself, this is the moment Allah says yes. But then silence. Days pass, then weeks, and nothing. And that silence, it doesn't just feel empty. It feels personal. Many of us have been there. We think, did I do something wrong? Was I not sincere enough? Is Allah even listening to me anymore? But what if that silence wasn't neglect? What if it was protection? What if Allah knew what we couldn't? That the thing we were begging for was hiding a test we weren't ready for? That the marriage we cried over would have ended in a breakdown? That the job we idolized would have poisoned our peace? The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, there is no Muslim who makes a dua in which there is no sin or severing of family ties, but that Allah gives him one of three things. Either He hastens the response, or stores it for the hereafter, or averts a calamity from him equivalent to it. Maybe we didn't get what we asked for, but we were saved from what we didn't see coming. And isn't that scarier? That some of the worst harm we could have experienced, Allah removed before we even knew to fear it? So the next time a dua feels ignored, ask yourself, What if this wasn't silence? What if it was Allah answering, just not the way we expected? And what about when everything does go right, but your heart still feels off? That strange discomfort might just be the sixth sign. Sign 6. The truth comes out right before the damage is done. There's a pattern that only becomes clear when looking back. Someone enters your life. They seem genuine. Everything lines up, maybe even perfectly. And just as you're about to take the next step, trust them more, share something personal, commit to a relationship, something gets exposed. A contradiction, a lie, a past they conveniently forgot to mention. It could be a message you accidentally saw, a strange slip of the tongue, or someone warning you out of nowhere. And you're left thinking, why now? Why not earlier or later? But that's the point. Allah let it unfold right before it was too late. Because if the truth came any earlier, you might not have listened. And if it came any later, you would have already been in too deep. This isn't intuition, this is divine interception. Allah says in Surah Al-Imran 354, and they plan, and Allah plans. And Allah is the best of planners. The ones who plotted to deceive you, Allah exposed them, not through your cleverness, but through mercy. So if something ever fell apart, right when it was starting to feel serious, ask yourself, was it bad timing? Or did Allah just stop a disaster you hadn't even seen coming? Because the next sign proves it even further. When someone thinks they've fooled you, but somehow you're still standing. Sign 7, their plan backfires and you come out stronger. Some people never wanted the best for you. They smiled, they clapped when you won. They even used words like sister, brother, love for the sake of Allah. But deep down, they were waiting for the moment you'd fall, just so they could say, I knew it. They gave you advice just sharp enough to cut. They stayed close, just long enough to gather information. And when the time came, they tried to sabotage you. Maybe through a lie, a rumor, or an emotional setup you didn't see coming. But here's the part they didn't plan for. You didn't collapse. You kept your peace. You didn't fight fire with fire. And without realizing it, you did exactly what the Qur'an described in Surah Al-Furqan 25:63. And the servants of the Most Merciful are those who walk upon the earth humbly, and when the ignorant address them, they say words of peace. While they expected drama, you gave silence. While they waited for a meltdown, you gave sujud, that calm response. That wasn't weakness. That was Allah preserving your dignity while exposing theirs. So next time someone plays dirty and you still come out standing, don't question how. Ask yourself instead, what kind of protection must be surrounding me if even someone's best effort to break me ends up elevating me? But not every protection looks like survival. Some look like silence, like nothing happened, and yet everything changed. Which brings us to the last one, and maybe the most quietly powerful of them all. Sign 8. They never get to know the real you. Here's a harsh truth. Not everyone deserves access to who you really are. But the problem is, most people don't realize this until after they've already overshared, overtrusted, or overexposed themselves to someone who only came to observe, not protect. But some people, they get spared. Not because they're cold or antisocial, but because Allah never lets the wrong person fully reach them. People try to get close, but they end up confused. They want to manipulate, but they can't read your silence. They push for vulnerability, but something always stays out of reach. That distance, that boundary you didn't even mean to build, that's Allah. Allah is not just protecting your life. He's protecting your essence, your thoughts, your softness, your sincerity. And sometimes that protection looks like people calling you guarded, hard to understand, or emotionally distant. Let them misunderstand, because what they call cold, Allah calls covered. What they call distant, Allah calls preserved. In Surah An-Nur 24:30-31, Allah commands both believing men and women to lower their gaze and guard their modesty. But modesty isn't just in looks, it's in how much of yourself you reveal, and to whom. So if you've ever felt like no one really gets you, like the wrong people keep leaving because they can't connect, maybe they weren't meant to. Maybe that quiet wall around your heart isn't emotional damage. Maybe it's divine design. You might not have seen any miracles, no lightning bolts, no big dramatic signs. But sometimes the protection of Allah looks ordinary. Awkward goodbyes, delayed messages, missed phone calls, sudden discomfort, quiet exits, and yes, even heartbreak. But through it all, if you're still intact, if your dignity is still safe, if your heart still whispers Allah's name even after the storm, then that means the protection worked. Because Allah doesn't shield you with angels you can see. Sometimes Allah protects you with things falling apart just before something inside you would have. So comment this dua below. Ya Allah, protect me from the people who pretend to love me while secretly wishing for my downfall. And if this video reached your heart in any way, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a quiet reminder that being alone isn't always a curse. Sometimes it's a fortress. May Allah protect your soul, your peace, and your heart, even from what you don't see coming. Ameen.